Saul, great to see you as ever, and thanks for joining us on Market Madness. I can see behind you've got a Noni Madueke shirt. So why don't we start with him? Of course, he has been injured, unfortunately, but seemingly is on his way back now. Tell me a little bit about the work that you do with Noni.
Well, first, thanks for having me. Great to be back on. Yeah, listen, Noni first came to me about over 4 years ago. Wanted to work on his game off season. Went really well. That relationship, and then when he moved to Chelsea, it became a lot more frequent, and obviously he's continued down the road. Yeah, I mean, listen, for all players like that, it's about trying to support them with position specific training. So obviously Noni's a wide forward player, predominantly on the right, and can play left to trying to make him more game effective. And really, like I say to all players in his position, nitty gritty is going to be the data, assists and goals, and trying to support him into to creating opportunities and scoring opportunities, basically. So all the work revolves around that and his position and trying to make him as effective as possible in it.
He is a kind of modern winger, isn't he? At Chelsea, and no doubt it will be the same at Arsenal when he returns. That position, you can be asked to be quite old school and hug the touchline. But in the modern game, you're basically expected, aren't you, to have the goal contribution output of a wide forward.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I think Mane and Salah under Liverpool, they really changed the game, didn't they? They're like their numbers. So like saying like a wide forward player, you need all the attributes of a ability to break the line and dominate 1v1, but also the goal output almost of a number nine or as that forward player. So yeah, it's more challenging. And listen, different managers have different ways they want you to play. So for example, when Potter came in, he wanted to not only play a bit more central in the pockets, and Maresca likes to play further out wide. And you see at Arsenal, Arteta really likes those players to hug the touchline and be able to beat the players on the outside or come inside. So you've got to be adaptable tactically and technically. The modern game's really challenging, but you've got to have that skill asset and continue working on it to try and make yourself as successful as possible. And like I say, at the end of the day, you're going to be judged on, can you create and can you finish?
What does Noni have to do in terms of either his work with you or his broader training to get as comfortable on the left as the right?
I think, even, he has predominantly played on the right side of his career, but when he last year he played for Chelsea and England on the left, did really well. I thought he was one of England's best players. So, that's the modern game. You've got to be flexible enough to play in different positions, and all top players can really do that. He's got to keep working on it. So, listen, he's always going to make an impact wherever he plays. And, for me, at the beginning of this season, Arsenal, he's one of the best players in the Premier League, really direct, really dominant, really unlucky actually not to get a lot more assists, some better finishes. He would have got some more assists on the board. So he's just a really exciting player. He's a wild player, that is going to be, someone great for Arsenal and England in the future.
And how much of a role do you play with Noni or potentially other clients when they are rehabilitating from injury?
Well, it's difficult really because obviously, look, that's the rehabilitation comes with the club, and obviously, he can't come back to me until he is match fit. So that's obviously a very delicate process. So obviously, then it's real, but it's letting that process to sort of take its time. Obviously, I communicate, we chat, we talk about things, but really, we can't get on the pitch until he's back in that in fighting fit, if you like. I mean, the reality, ironically, if I was working for a club, probably I'd be doing quite a lot of work with him. It could be an ideal time because it'd be non-contact. We could do actually a lot of work on the pitch. So I'm sure he's doing some stuff with that at the club as well. But in terms of that, it's very much, waiting for him to be back and ready to go.
Any sense of when he's hoping to be back, presumably before the festive fixtures start, if not sooner?
From what I know, it's imminently. He should be back in contention very soon. Do you know what I mean? So I think it was anticipated having 2 months off. Originally, we talked about maybe going and doing some stuff in this international break. He wasn't quite ready, but I think he's there or thereabouts, and he should be back quite soon.
Another winger that you work with and a hot topic at the moment is Antoine Semenyo at Bournemouth. Tell me a bit about your relationship with him.
Yeah, so we sort of connected in the summer. He reached out to me, wanted to do some work. We met up in the south of France because I was there to do stuff with Flo Balogun and Elijah Dixon Bonner, who plays at QPR, the two friendly guys. So we were doing some work at the Monaco training ground, and he reached out to do some work with me as well. So luckily, Flo said, "Look, bring him along." So we trained all together, some unbelievably intense, fantastic sessions with those three guys going at it. And then we came back to London and continued to some intense series of sessions before we went back into Bournemouth, really to get him. That's it. What I do, we try and get people sharp, get people ready for the game, but also work on those skill sets and, like I say, that position specific stuff. So with Antoine, definitely, he's so dynamic, so explosive, technically so good on both sides. Lots of repetition, high volume, quality repetition. He'll be able to break the line in and around the box, challenging with different types of shots, different angles, and really trying to put him through that. So the idea is that when the Premier League starts, you hit the ground running, and that obviously has been quite successful for him.
What, from your perspective, do you think Semenyo's best position is? Because as you've alluded to, he's equally capable of playing on the right or on the left.
He's quite unique in the fact that he's two-footed, and a lot of people talk about that, but being able to strike the ball both feet. But he's probably one of the strongest, technically advanced in being able to strike the ball, power and accuracy and consistency with both feet, with his left and his right. Unbelievable. So in terms, that's fortunate for him because he can go both ways. He can play both sides. And answer your question, I mean, I've seen him be destructive on both wings. He's so good, and he's good in transition. He can attack, he can break lines into space behind, but also be able to beat players when they're in balance as well. So he can play left or right, and he's probably from one of the most exciting players in world football at the moment. So he could take his pick of anywhere to go on any of the big teams.
What areas of his game do you think he wants to improve?
I think listen, he's a top player, but like all these guys, Noni and Antoine as well, they know like the work just never stops basically. So it might be little tweaking, just refining. Like I say, we'll look a lot on his movement, his first touch, his ball striking, shooting and finishing in and around the box. These are all core attributes he excels at, but it's just trying to squeeze a little bit more out of them. That's why it's important to train with the game in mind, set up practices which are game specific, position specific, to train it. So then the idea is that when you get the opportunity, you can't get it wrong. So listen, to answer your question, he wants to develop all of his things, but for me, there's no weakness in his game.
Yeah, and from what I'm told as well, away from the football, he's a fantastic character as well. And not somebody, I'm told anyway, despite two release clauses, one in January and one in the summer, that's agitating for a move away. Of course, it's very realistic that he may leave mid-season or in summer 2026, but he doesn't strike me as the kind of character that does anything other than live and focus in the present.
Yeah, he's just a generally nice human being, nice guy, look, top player, but unbelievably nice guy, friendly, no ego, really nice to be around, and yeah, just really focused. You know what I mean? So I think the cliche of some of these young guys who come into this fortunate position, with all the blessings around it. He doesn't seem affected by that. Just a genuinely nice guy, straight, good family, in terms of straight down the line. I mean, in terms of like, he's religious, obviously, good upbringing stuff. So he's got his head screwed on, and he's just, he's could really go all the way, really.
I know it would differ based on circumstances and whether it's pre-season or during the season, but if you sort of had an hour or a session with Semenya now, give us a bit more detail and specifics as to the kind of things that you would be doing.
Yeah, I think, like I say, Antone's really effective and explosive in those forward areas. So for me, be like, right, can I try and replicate, particularly the goal scoring opportunities in and around the box? So for my work revolves around the 1v1 duel. So, trying to break down that 11v11 in terms of like, can you beat the man in front of you, the defender? So that's going to be, look, three basic ways. Either is it going to be a player in front of me, maybe a player behind me? So I'm trying to break pressure, or a player to the side. So if a player can dominate those three scenarios, then it's got a much more high percentage chance of being successful in the game. So I design practice around those three scenarios, in and around the box, position specific. So I might be in the wide area, trying, for example, to receive the ball and bit of disguise to try and break the line, to then try and shoot and finish and get your shots off. So, we're always working on those things to try and challenge him. It's the same adage of the old Tiger Woods practice, principles that, you practice the hardest things you can. So when the game comes, the easy things just happen naturally. So you just try and challenge these guys in and around the ball at high speed, high intensity, to then when the game comes, they're ready for it.
When you sort of look at who's out there within the Premier League, do you think there's a specific manager or club that might be able to move his game along further?
Difficult to say, really. I mean, he's fortunate that he could literally go to any of those clubs you mentioned and get into that challenge for that starting lineup. So any of those teams will be, lucky and fortunate to get Anton. Really, obviously he he thrives on attacking football, getting the ball forward quick, getting into his so he can get it into his feet or he can run beyond because he's got both those assets. So any manager who wants to play attacking football and support him in scoring and creating would be a good fit for him, I think.
As his game develops, even though he is a winger, and you would think a lot of these clubs would say he's an elite winger, keep it simple. But some have sort of suggested he might have the capability to play more as a wing back as well. Is that in his locker?
I think he's so dynamic, he could do that job. But then I think the problem with that is that you take him away, you take something away from potentially what he's going to offer in the team because he's so destructive in and around the box, with the shooting and finishing and breaking lines. So he could do that job for you definitely because he has the athleticism and the technical skill set to do that. But then I think you're almost missing an opportunity really with him there because he adds so much more being higher up the pitch more frequently.
And how do you think Andoni Iraola has moved on his game? What is it that's working between his current manager and Semenyo to lead to this rich vein of form?
Well, I think it was Ariola who spotted the fact that maybe Anton was signed originally as a number nine, wasn't he? He's supposed to play as like a striker, so he has that in his locker as well. But I think he saw the opportunity to move him into those wider areas as 7 and 11, and now that's made him one of the most exciting, strongest players in the Premier League at the moment in the world football, if you like. So obviously he's effective, and the way Ariola's football is quite direct. They get the ball forward quick. There's lots of space behind for him to run into. So that suits his game also. Do you know what I mean? So it's attacking. So when they win the ball, can we play forward quick, whether it's beyond the space or they're breaking in or they're countering? So that sort of suits him as well. So yeah, I mean that's obviously been a really good fit for Anton. Obviously, he's done a lot of favors for Ariola as well.
And of course, we're talking about English clubs being interested, but no doubt plenty of European suitors as well. But do you think his game is just geared towards the Premier League, and therefore, were he to leave Bournemouth, staying within the Premier League would be the right kind of move for him?
I think he could. I said that before. He could go. He could go and play for Madrid or Barcelona. He's that good. In terms of his technical assets, his physical assets, what he brings to the table. He could. I wouldn't be surprised if one of those big guns came in for him. He has that ability to do that. He could go. That guy can go and play anywhere he likes in the world.
And then you mentioned Flo Balogun as well, who's another client that you work with. And it's obviously a big few months in the build up for him and a home World Cup playing for America under Maurizio Pochettino. What does the early part of 2026 look like in terms of your work with him as he prepares to try and make an impact at that World Cup on home soil?
Yeah, I think like he's like Flo's like real, unique individual again. Really got a fantastic mindset. Really focused. Unbelievable, like really intense guy on the pitch as well. Brings it to every session in terms of when we're training, obviously in the games when he's playing in games as well. And yeah, listen, it's a big opportunity for him. Home World Cup, USA is number nine, and in this season, this season he's like even like definitely last few weeks he's had some really good appearances, some for America and for Monaco. So he's just got to build that momentum now and keep doing it, keep working hard, which he always does. Be the main man at Monaco, be one of the best players in the French league. And then, when the opportunity comes in America, take it with both hands, which I'm sure he will.
Give some insight into how you bring on board a client. Are you drawing up a list of names based on what you've watched, who you think can benefit? Is it just word of mouth? How do you pitch to a prospective client to come and work with you?
Yeah, I mean, it comes a lot of ways. I mean, so Anthony it was through Instagram, social media, and obviously he'd like I said worked with some players he knew. Tyrese Campbell at Charlton is a friend of his. I obviously the work I've done with him. A lot of agents approach me, say, "Look, Saul, I've seen what you do with this Noni or whatever. Have a look." And for example, might be you work with one player within the stable, then they bring other players. That often is the case. So yeah, I mean, listen, it's unfortunate. I get a lot of people reaching out a lot of the time. Not people reach out a lot of the time, then don't follow that through as well. They say, "Oh, that looks good," but I suppose it takes the extra bit, that mental character, that the extra, really to action it, to wanting to do more to progress it. So listen, I get, unfortunately, I get a lot of people contacting me, most days really.
Is there anybody in world football that you would dream of working with one on one?
I don't know. I see someone asked that before. I'm not, I don't know really. Listen, I mean, listen, I'm when working with people like Noni and Antone and doing well. What's great about those guys, they come to me and then they're playing well, and it's great for me. I get great buzz from seeing players develop and doing well. But anytime I get a call from one of these guys, I feel like it's a blessing and fortunate. But listen, if you're saying I'd love to do a session with Ronaldo or Messi or something, that'd be fun, But if the who wouldn't? But I'm fortunate to have quite a good stable of players.
And from what I understand, this is not a case of people just coming to you in the UK or you traveling to UK players or clubs. You do a lot of international travel as well.
Yeah, I do because obviously I'm a consultant as well. So I consult in this country. I've done stuff with Arsenal with their academy, supporting their individual program. Last season, did a lot of stuff with Brighton. I'm still doing stuff with Brighton. Talking to a few other Premier League clubs. I've got an app called My Personal Football Coach. So a lot of people use my app. I've been in China, Asia, really in China. I'm going to do stuff with the Hong Kong FA in February. So it's all based around individual development, skill development, supporting clubs and federations with that. And like say, yeah, working with players. I get requests to come abroad and work with players as well, like say whether it's in the off season or go and do it in the season as well. So I'm fortunate that I do a lot of travel with my work as well.
Just give a bit more insight into that younger group of players, whether they're at academies or whether they're teenagers bursting onto the scene. Because nowadays, Chelsea is one good example. Players that were previously of an academy age are often thrown straight into the first team. How do you approach working with maybe an under 21 player? Because in that age group, they're growing, which can obviously create a number of complications in terms of maintaining their sharpness,
Mm.
predicting how they will develop. People have spoken before. I did an interview with Ian Foster, for example, who had Cole Palmer at England youth level. And he said the way that Cole trained, the way that we built him up, we had to be really patient because he was growing and changing all of the time. So is there a different approach that you take to that younger category of player, even if they are already within first team plans?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's so many different factors in youth development. Like I said, I work with 21s, I work with under nines, 10s, 11s, 12s. I spent 10 years at Chelsea and Tottenham in the academy. So I've seen that firsthand in terms of the development cycle. And there's so many things that can happen, growth spurts. I say people are still growing. Like Noni had a lot of injuries, was younger at PSV, and they identified that maybe was growing with his growth issues. So, you got to be careful with that, monitor that. Loftus-Cheek, Ruben as well, when I was at Chelsea again, someone who's very, grows so much, their body, struggles to keep up with their growth spurts, if you like. So you've got to be conscious of that. I mean, but it is interesting. Yeah. I mean, players do seem to be getting younger. There's a lot of young players now seem to be breaking in earlier, which is very interesting, like the players we mentioned before. So yeah, I think just got to be conscious. You got to see their load in, see their contact time. And, so us, the Arsenal have done that really effectively, with the players they've managed to go from Dalman to Skelly and if and where to sort of get those in gradually, if you like.
And just finally, where can people learn more about your work if they're not familiar with you?
Well, they can check me out on Instagram, my football coach one, or my football coach on X, and can download my app, my personal football coach. It's a free app. It's got skill-based stuff for players, parents, coaches, and clubs. So they're probably the best ways. Or they can email me, Saul at mypersonalfootballcoach.com. Always happy to chat football.